Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for being late. Something about scheduling here. They scheduled me on another session that ends at 3:30 and moved it to the next floor to make it more challenging for me. This is how we roll at Checkpoint. So my name is Aviv Abramovich. I'm with Product Management. This next session is going to talk to you about SD-WAN, but more importantly for me than SD-WAN is to talk to you about branch office security, because it's actually a slightly different challenge. With me to assist is Niels.
Yes. So my name
is...
You have a mic. I have, yes.
Oh, brilliant.
I used this because you were late. So my name is Niels Uymer. I'm a cloud security architect in Checkpoint, and here to show you this as well. Yeah. Okay.
So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you. I've sort of, to prepare for this, I researched, and I've noticed that that Gartner announced this last year. I need to realize that we're in 2019. Gartner announced that the data center is dead. Okay, so all of you running data centers out there, my condolences. But later, I noticed that Forbes have actually said, well, it was greatly exaggerated. Now, other than the chuckles, I think what really is happening is data centers are evolving. So we all know that, or we see that there are a lot of customers going through IT transformation projects. And I spoke to maybe in the last year for about 200 customers, give or take. All of them are going through some kind of digital transformation in some different phases. Some are more advanced than others. Some already have older applications, the major applications in the cloud, Office 365, Salesforce, whatever you can think about it, have moved to AWS, moved to Azure, and so on. And what we need to do, one of the things we really need is to help them through their journey. The one thing they quickly realize, and we all realize, we need to rethink how we deliver security in the new evolving day and age with IT transformation. So you spent a few sessions already in cloud, but the reason we are all focusing on cloud, we are all focusing on these new emerging technologies, because we all realize data centers are shrinking everywhere. I see many customers that have active projects and active strategies to downsize their existing footprint of the data center and move to cloud platform. Now that brings new challenges. So focusing specifically on branch office, what we see is branch office today, they're lagging with security. So if you consider a branch office with thousands of branches, or an organization with thousands of branches, these branches, to upgrade all these branches, it's a tedious task. Once you've completed the cycle of upgrading 500 branches, guess what you have to do? You have to start over again, because the first gateway you upgraded is from 2 or 3 years ago, so it's already lagging. The second is complexity and the scale of management. So if you now have not just branches, but users, devices, and other things that you have to manage, applications, it becoming super complex to manage, super sophisticated. You have to be across multiple technology, and that's the challenge on its own. Capacity. It's really simple to upgrade from a 100 meg link to a 1 gig link. Actually, what we're seeing today is people moving away or reducing also their MPLS footprint. And of course, it needs to decrease the costs. Eventually, whatever we do, we cannot keep increasing costs, because it doesn't make sense. So we have to bring different kind of security to meet the new architecture. By the way, what I've noticed is that a lot of some customers tend to forget about it and expose the branch, and the result is not surprising, because if you disconnect the security from the branch office, it will be eventually compromised. Take us away, Niels.
Yes. Okay, so let's have a look to, how does typical SD-WAN look like? How do many customers see SD-WAN, right? So first of all, there's the branch office, right? And in the past, what happened is that the branch office had maybe a router or connectivity to internet or an MPLS connection. And this is about to change. And we see this everywhere in the world, this kind of move which is going to happen. And I think when we talk about this here, many of you already have been maybe engaged with that, with some projects like this. Maybe you consider to buy an SD-WAN solution. So what is happening? Actually, connectivity will be established via different possible links, right? We have LTE as an option to send traffic through. We have classical broadband connection. There are even MPLS connections here. And through all these different connection channels, SD-WAN devices can send traffic based on different policies, either to a data center, to the public cloud, to the internet, and make sure that the traffic is in some kind of way load balanced, that there is high availability on the traffic, right? So these things are very important. At the same time, of course, the cost saving factor is something which is very important for our customers here. So when we look about that, how does it will be delivered? Usually in this SD-WAN device, there is this kind of link selection there with application sharing, everything which customers are looking for today. But of course, this does not include security. This is a very important part here, because what happened is that in the past, the device and the branch office just made the connectivity to the data center. And then the security take place in the data center or in this device itself. But SD-WAN builds also connections to the internet. It builds connections to the public cloud, to software as a service solutions, right? And there is actually no security in place at these borders, which means, of course, we need to rethink how can we secure such an environment and what kind of technologies can we as Check Point add to secure that? And the answer to that is that we as Check Point, we are actually cooperating with leading SD-WAN vendors to build a secure SD-WAN solution. Right? So the idea is that we build a solution together with such vendors, and we talk a little bit about such vendors in a few minutes, like what can that be. But this is the main idea, because these partners from us, they have the capability to make this kind of special SD-WAN features happen. And I want to go a step further. I want to think about not just SD-WAN as a single thing. Just think about the data center involvement, what he mentioned a few minutes ago. In the data center, we see a lot of software-defined networking. Right? In the wide area network, in the branch offices, we see the software-defined wide area networking, if you want so, right? And especially vendors like VMware, what are they doing is they try to combine that somehow, right? So they have acquired Velo Cloud, which is a partner of Check Point here. And at the same time, they use technologies such as NSX for the communication inside of the data center. So there's a lot of things happening here, which actually show that securing an infrastructure like that with partners is key. So what can we do in that space? And actually we have two different solutions how we can deliver that. The first thing I want to mention here is something quite new, which the branch edge virtual gateway. Right? So that means the customer has an SD-WAN device. And on top of the SD-WAN device, you can run a Check Point image, which is very small, which is very slim, to secure the traffic which is coming through the Check Point device. So we bring the security back on top of the SD-WAN device and secure that together with this partner I mentioned before. And I will talk about this a bit more in detail in a few minutes as well. And second, we have a service which is called Network Security as a Service, which is a cloud service from Check Point, where these devices can connect to. The reason behind that is quite simple. Think about organizations who have just like very small branch offices. In these small branch offices, they usually get devices which are also very slim, very cost effective, right? And these devices don't have the capability to run a hypervisor on top of it. Right? They're just making a connectivity solution based on the technologies I mentioned before. And what they can do is they can route the traffic to the Check Point Network Security as a Service platform, where we apply security on top of it then. And then we have the branch offices, like a little bit bigger branch offices, for example, where there is a need to add the security on top of the device, where also bigger devices are needed. And for those devices, we can run our virtual network function, our virtual gateway on top of it. So these are the two use cases we see many, many times. And when we talk to customers, these are usually the things which are important here. So network security as a service, as I mentioned, this is the cloud service operated by Check Point. The idea behind that is that we can provide the latest security. We manage that for our customers, which means we can apply the latest security information there. It is very simple to deploy that, and we see that in a few minutes here by using some kind of slides. I can show that to you. It is easy to manage. It's very efficient to operate. And as I said, SD-WAN devices from partners can easily connect to this platform where we add the security on top of it. So how does it look like? How can we provide this latest security? Of course, if you think about all of our features we have in Check Point, like the firewalling, application control, UFL filtering, IPS, antivirus, and so on, these are features which you cannot find in SD-WAN devices here, right? But we provide that as a service for our customers. And on top of it, there's Threat Cloud. And I think when you think about what Gil told us in the morning, how many millions of different information we have saved there, I mean, this is a very efficient method how to secure SD-WAN based devices where we cannot add something on top of it. So we reroute the traffic to this environment, to the network security as a service platform, where we then can use all of our Check Point blades to bring the latest security to our customers. So if you want to deploy something like this, how does it look like? First of all, you log into a portal, to a web-based portal, right? And in this web-based portal, you define a few things, like the site name, for example. You define the external IP address of the gateway. You define which region is that. And we support several regions here in the world. I think it's 15, right?
Yes,
yeah,
15 regions.
It's 15 different regions. So you can select one of the nearest regions to your location you want to connect to. And then you can set some descriptions. And after clicking on next, you actually get this output here. And if you can see that, this is actually something you can use in a router to implement that, or an SD-WAN device. So all the information for the connectivity are here. The only thing you need to do now is you bring that to the SD-WAN device, this kind of configuration, and then the SD-WAN device actually is able to connect to this environment. And after configuring that, you see this kind of web UI here, right? And if you compare that web UI to Check Point or 80.20 management, you see that this follows the same principles, right? Means you have here on this area, you have the policy configuration. You can define the source, you can define like the destination you want to add here with a similar feature set, what you usually have in the 80.20 management. So customers who already know Check Point or 80.20 or 80 series, say it like that, will easily find a way to manage this network security as a service platform here. And again, this is hosted by Check Point. You easily can log in there and configure the policies to the needs you have to make some kind of segmentation happen inside of this network to make sure that the traffic to the internet and other sources is being secured.
I want to add a couple more notes. One of them is we are actually going to allow we have many customers today that are already using Check Point, and they want to move to an SD-WAN solution. And one of the things that we are putting a lot of effort and a lot of focus on as we develop this solution is to integrate with an on-premise existing management. The integration will be in several steps and several ways. First, aggregate all the logging, all the events. So as a customer, you log into a single management portal. You'll be able to see whatever is going inside your network and see events that are happening on the branches as well, even though they are managed from the cloud. We are also going to take all the policies, all the objects that you spent, some of the customers have spent years building. So they have a lot of pre-existing configurations, objects, rules, settings on what branches are allowed to do, not allowed to do, which applications, users. There's a lot of assets there that you don't want to redefine when you move on to a network security as a service solution. You want to leverage what already exists there and use it. And this will be one of the ways that we will integrate, and hopefully will make both solutions work together in a seamless and very easy and intuitive way. Back to you, Nils.
Okay. So from an operational point of view, from an architectural point of view, how does it look like? In the branch office, of course, we have the branch office IT infrastructure, and then we have the router or the SD-WAN device. And you have seen like this kind of configuration code you get when you configure the site. So you put the configuration code in this SD-WAN device, and then the SD-WAN device is establishing two tunnels, right? One primary tunnel and one secondary tunnel. And these are traditionally like either GRE or IPsec tunnels to the network protection as a service environment. And then you have these cloud connectors here, which are actually making sure that the traffic is being secured according to your policy. So this is what
yes, indeed. You'll be able to also select and have redundant tunnels. This will include built-in redundancy as well. So as you create a site or a branch, that branch will actually be able to open two tunnels and be able to switch between one tunnel to another. So in case the primary one fails, seamless failover to the secondary tunnel. All the users continue to have their connectivity and whatever they need, and enjoy and continue to enjoy the security. We're using cloud native architecture. So those of you there that are thinking integration through APIs, integration through scripts, that is something we're going to open up as well for this platform. So this will really bring the power of the cloud flexibility to Check Point. Everything is elastic. So as a customer, when you need more throughput, when you need more CPU power, that happens automatically. You as a customer don't have to go in and create yet another image and worry about how do I scale. This system is cloud native and it's auto-scalable.
All right. So as mentioned, there are by today 15 worldwide locations. And if you look to this region, we have a location in South Korea, in Singapore, in Japan, in Australia, India. So these are usually cases that we see, of course, many customers. And you can easily select in the profile settings to which of these sites you want to connect to make sure you have small latency and an efficient bandwidth control.
Yeah. Just a word on that. Even though we are still in early availability phases, we haven't officially launched Network Security as a Service as a product. We already have availability in 15 locations. We are actually planning to expand that much further and have a lot more locations around the world. Of course, it will be driven by our business requirements, customer demand, and we see where the adoption is happening faster, and that's where we'll open up more and more locations.
All right. So this was a bit about the network protection as a service, the cloud service here. And now I want to give you a little bit more details about the virtual image, about the virtual network function you can run on top of these SD-WAN devices, right? And not speaking just of SD-WAN devices, we also have these UCPE devices which go in a similar direction. And we also see the need to have a very slim security system which is running there and protecting the assets of the branch office in this case. So first of all, the idea behind that small image is that we can deliver the best security, including evasion-resisting sandboxing, that we can have a very simple, very easy-to-use web UI, because usually these people managing this kind of SD-WAN devices don't have this kind of knowledge how to manage a checkpoint gateway. They want a very simple gateway here, which is very easy to manage, but also the capability to run large-scale management. For those of you who know the SMP management, this can be included here in the VNF configuration. So there are some things that is very important, and one topic I want to highlight is the small footprint here, the industry's small footprint we have here in these devices. That means we can easily use one core, 1 gig of RAM, and 1 gig of hard disk space to implement that specific image. And that is, I think, very important when it comes to small devices, small SD-WAN devices, and then fast deployment. And then you see that even here in the boot up times, which is at least less than 40 seconds. So this specific VNF, what has been created here, is an outcome of communication we had with many customers around the world who actually talk with us about these requirements. And when we think about how can this run, so we can run this on different platforms. We have it by today running for OpenStack, for VMware, for KVM, for example, right? We provide different images for that. So it's easy to implement regardless what partner has what kind of hypervisor installed. There is an kind of like command line interface available, which makes it easy to program the device. I can compare that to an API where you can easily configure the device according to your customer's needs. At the same time, this can be managed through the web UI, but in future also by a mobile application via Smart Center. Very important to mention here, you can even implement that into the Checkpoint Smart Center. So for those customers, or for those partners who want to do that in the Checkpoint Standard Smart Center, they can do that, or they can use the web UI for that. And again, if you compare these images, if you compare the Checkpoint VNF to the Checkpoint CloudGuard, yes, here you see these differences. So we have the minimum memory of 1 GB here. Here we have 4 GB when it comes to the memory itself. We have the CPU with 1 core. We have the disk space requirements. So you see that the clear focus of this VNF is especially for those small environments.
Quick word on the competition. When compared, if we were to compare this with some of our competitors like Fortinet and Palo Alto, you would actually see that from a footprint perspective, they're nowhere near us. We can operate with far less CPU and far less memory and disk footprint than our competitors. This is actually, I personally was involved in a deal where a customer actually replaced Fortinet VMs because we were able to reduce the footprint. We have to, if you think about partners and providers of security as a service, if some of you are in the audience thinking of, we can leverage something like this to deliver security for our customers. This will also drive your platform cost. Doesn't matter what you use. If you use Amazon or AWS or DigitalOcean or whatever is out there, this will reduce your infrastructure cost considerably. And that is the one thing that we also have in mind when we are creating this VNF platform.
Yes, at the same time, finally, to finalize that slide, you can easily use automation to deploy that. So when we talk about such devices, automation is usually key, right? Which means like you can use technologies such as Ansible to deploy this image, to provide it in these SD-WAN devices, use it through CPE devices, and then distribute it by that way. And I want to show you something a little bit that you have an idea how it looks like. And for that, I have a very short video just giving you an idea. So this is how it looks like. It is, if you see that the first time, it's very comparable to the image we have in our small branch office devices and the Checkpoint 700 devices, very comparable to that. We have the configuration here. We have the dashboard with all the features in Checkpoint except threat extraction. We have the security management where you can make a decision, is this a local or a central management? What do we want to talk about? We have the security policies over here where you configure the network security access, etc. So I just jumped to that to save some time. Here you see that we have the rules. This can be configured, as I mentioned, through the command line interface, through this web interface, or through the Smart Center. And what I did in this short demo is actually I created a web server, and you see this here, and this web server is protected by that specific VNF. So if I open a web browser now, and I just type in the public IP address of this web server, you see that, my website is coming up. Just a simple demo website, and later on I can navigate back to the VNF. I have the logs and monitoring section, and in the logs and monitoring section you see that there was an incoming request from HTTP from an external IP address to my internal host, which has this IP address. Network address translation has happened, and all the software plates, the security plates we have mentioned will apply here and secure that traffic. Right? This is just an example how it can be, and as I mentioned, that is a very big advantage when you add this level of security to an existing SD-WAN device or a UCP device. Okay.
So what we're going to do is we are going to launch two types of integration. This is talking about the second integration where we're running it as a VNF. The first organization that we already partner with is VMware on their VMware Velo Cloud solution. And I will take you pretty quickly to how that actually looks like. If you can, yeah. The first phase will be, this is screenshots from Velo Cloud's solution. The first thing you do is you click on edit and you upload and you deploy a new VNF image. The image, as I said, will be very, very slim. Even when it's compressed, it's relatively slim, about 100 meg in size. Then you go to the next step is to insert it. Click on, yeah. This is where you configure one of the interfaces on this Velo Cloud device. All you have to do is then tick this box that says, yes, I want to allow VNF insertion. That means the traffic going through this interface is flowing through this VNF solution seamlessly. The VNF already pre-configured to act or work in bridge mode, so you don't have to configure IP for it, routing. It's very seamless from traffic flow perspective. And then the last bit is to actually go and check out the status. You are done. You will see that VNF is uploaded and running and securing. From that point, you can go back to the dashboard or the SMP or the local web UI, whatever you prefer to manage this SMB device, and configure the policy or security policy from it. So to summarize, in the 3 minutes we have left, what we want to do is we want to deliver and bring the branch security. We want to make branch security great again. Because branch security cannot be left alone because we're working on SD-WAN projects. And we have to remember, as we move away from the fabric of MPLS, from the umbrella of security we get from through the MPLS with the data center, we have to bring security back to the branch. It needs to be agile and dynamic. What it means is we have to be able to upgrade. What we've noticed that there's a lot of, if you have a lot of branches, they fall behind. With security as a service, either as a VNF or running as a network security as a service, you keep your security at the branch level up to date, and it's much easier to upgrade and much more flexible. And yeah, we will continue to work and expand with different branches and different vendors. So this is a list of vendors we are already working with and we are already integrating with. Just to give you an idea, I mentioned VMware as far as VNF. We also support Versa as VNF, Silverpeak as NSAS, Cisco in their Viptela solution as NSAS, and others, Citrix, other players like Aruba. We also work and collaborate with universal CPE vendors like Juniper, Nokia, and Huawei, and Cisco again in their Cisco ENCS platform. And we already have carriers and MSSPs, these two in the US, but we have more that we are developing to bring security and SD-WAN as a service, secure SD-WAN connectivity as a service. And if you're a carrier out there, you want to work with us, please approach us. We'll be delighted to explore this further with you.
I just want to highlight, we have here in the technical tables, we have two tables available. One showing the network protection as a service platform together with Silverpeak. This is available. You can go there. You can have a live demo. At the same time, we have in that space for MSSPs and carriers, we have another technical table where you can see the VNF up and running, where you can have a look to it, where you can see how this kind of automatic provisioning works and how a attacker can apply that.
So those of you want to get started and have a go at it, at least on the network security as a service, very easy to get started. Just go to portal.checkpoint.com. You will have to register first, but once you've registered, the registration is approved. You can then go in and start your POC, your EA, and evaluate the network security as a service. We invite as many of you as possible. We already have over 50 15 customers running in production, running their branch office in production for network security as a service. And so far, I hear only great feedback. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Any questions? Roll back to the previous slide. Any questions?
Please.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy the conference.